My name is Mia Johnson, and I'm a high school math teacher who's spent years trying to hold everything together: my kids, my job, my family's endless needs. I'm 38, a single mom to Lucas and Anna, and I've learned that love doesn't always mean belonging. Let me take you back to a Thanksgiving that changed everything, when I walked into my parents' house expecting warmth and found something else entirely. The air was crisp that November morning, the kind of Georgia chill that sneaks under your jacket and makes you pull your kids closer. I had one hand on Anna's tiny shoulder, her pigtails bouncing as she skipped, and the other balancing a pan of cornbread I'd stayed up late perfecting. Lucas trailed behind, clutching a pecan pie like it was his job to keep it safe. We'd spend hours in our cramped apartment kitchen, laughing over spilled flour, trying to make something special for the family.
I thought it'd mean something.
I was wrong. We pulled up to my parents' house in suburban Atlanta, a brick rancher with azaleas out front and a porch swing that hadn't moved in years. I rang the doorbell, waiting for the familiar chaos of voices and hugs. Nothing. After a minute, I led us through the side door, the one I'd used since I was a kid sneaking in after curfew. The kitchen smelled like roasted turkey, sage, and the sweet bourbon glaze my dad, Stephen, slathered on the hem every year. It should have felt like home, but it didn't. My mom, Diane, stood at the counter, folding napkins into perfect fans, her graying hair tucked behind her ears. She glanced at us, me, Lucas, Anna, and went right back to her task, like we were delivery drivers dropping off a package. No smile, no "Hey Mia, you made it." My dad was by the living room window, swirling his bourbon, staring out like he was expecting someone else. My brother Charles, always the loudest in any room, sprawled across Dad's recliner, debating football with our uncle. His wife, Natalie, perched nearby, laughing too brightly, like she was auditioning for a role I didn't understand. I cleared my throat. "Happy Thanksgiving," I said, setting the cornbread on the counter. Lucas placed the pie next to it, careful not to tip it. No one looked up. My sister Claire, ever the peacemaker, finally spoke from the dining room. "Oh, Mia, hey? We weren't sure you'd make it." Her voice was polite but thin, like she was reading from a script. I blinked. "You invited me," I said, feeling Anna's hand tighten in mine. Claire shrugged, her smile faltering. "Well, Charles thought you might have had other plans. It's been hectic." Anna tugged at my sleeve, her voice small. "Mommy, where do we sit?" I followed her gaze to the dining room. A long oak table gleamed under the chandelier, set for 12. Napkins folded, name cards in Natalie's cursive, wine glasses sparkling. I counted the chairs. 12. No high chair for Anna. No folding chair for Lucas. No place for me. My heart sank, but I kept my face steady for the kids. Claire caught my look and rushed to fill the silence. "We thought the kids could eat in the living room. There's pizza and a movie set up. It'll be fun for them." She said fun like it was a gift, but Lucas's shoulders stiffened and Anna's lip trembled. They weren't asking to be separated. They wanted to be part of the family, same as me. I swallowed the lump in my throat, guiding the kids to the living room. A card table waited with paper plates, a pizza box, and a tablet propped up with some cartoon paused. "The fun table," Claire called it. I smoothed Anna's hair, adjusted Lucas's jacket, and forced a smile. "This'll be great, guys," I lied. Lucas met my eyes, his voice barely a whisper. "When are we going home, Mom?" "Soon," I said, my chest tight. "Not just yet." Back in the kitchen, the air felt heavier, like the smell of turkey and bourbon was pressing down on me. I stood by the counter, watching my family move around me like I was a ghost. Mom was still folding napkins, her fingers precise, her eyes anywhere but mine. Dad laughed at something Charles said, his voice booming over the clink of glasses. Natalie topped off her wine, her smile sharp as she leaned into Charles's shoulder. No one asked how I was doing. No one asked about the kids' new school or the apartment we'd moved into after the divorce. I wasn't expecting a parade, but I thought someone might notice we were there. I set the cornbread next to a tray of untouched deviled eggs, the kind Mom used to make with me when I was Anna's age. Back then, she'd let me sprinkle the paprika, laughing when I got it on my nose. Now, She didn't even look at the dish I'd brought. I glanced at the dining room again, hoping I'd miscounted. 12 chairs. 12 plates. No room for us. It wasn't just the table, it was the message. We didn't fit. Lucas and Anna sat at their card table in the living room, picking at pizza slices. Anna's eyes were on the cartoon, but Lucas kept glancing back at me, like he could sense the shift. I knelt beside them, tucking a blanket over their laps. You okay? I asked, smoothing Anna's hair. She nodded, but her fingers clung to the blanket. Lucas didn't answer, just stared at his plate. I wanted to scoop them up and leave right then, but something held me back. Maybe the hope that someone would notice, would care. Back in the kitchen, Charles raised his glass, his voice cutting through the chatter. To family, he said, grinning like he'd invented the word. Everyone echoed him, glasses clinking, except me. I stood there, hands empty, heart heavier than the casserole I'd carried in. I'd spent years keeping this family afloat, paying Mom and Dad's electric bill when they fell behind, covering Charles's car payments when his big ideas fell through. I didn't do it for praise, but I thought it meant something. I thought it meant I belonged. That's when it hit me, sharp and cold. I wasn't family to them, not really. I was the one who fixed things, who showed up with solutions and casseroles, who never asked for help because I knew they wouldn't give it. I looked around the room, my childhood home, the walls lined with photos from years ago, none of me past high school. No pictures of Lucas's science fairs or Anna's dance recitals. I was here, but I wasn't seen. I cleared my throat, my voice steady despite the ache. I think we're heading out after dessert, I said, loud enough to cut through the noise. No one looked up at first. Then Charles smirked, swirling his drink. Busy mom life, huh? Always on the go. Natalie giggled, like it was a punchline. Single parent vibes, she said, her tone dripping with something that wasn't quite pity. MY's spine stiffened. I could have let it slide, could have packed up the kids, and left quietly like I always did. But something snapped, not loud, not angry, but final. Actually, I said, my voice low but clear, I need to say something. The room went quiet, or maybe it just felt that way to me. Charles's smirk faded, and Natalie's wine glass hovered midair. Mom finally looked up from her napkins, her eyes narrowing like I'd interrupted something important. Dad's bourbon stopped swirling. Claire, standing by the dining room doorway, clutched her own glass a little tighter. I wasn't yelling, wasn't shaking, but my words felt like they carried the weight of every late-night phone call, every unpaid bill, every time I'd bitten my tongue. I'm done, I said, my voice steady. I'm done covering the bills, the tuition, the emergencies. I'm done being the one you call when things fall apart. I looked at Charles, who raised an eyebrow like I was joking. I've been carrying more than my share for years, and I can't do it anymore. Not for me, not for Lucas and Anna. The silence that followed wasn't just awkward, it was heavy, like the air before a storm. Charles snorted, leaning back in his chair. What splitting Mom's water bill is carrying now, he said, his tone sharp enough to cut. Natalie nodded, her smile tight, like she was backing him up in a game I didn't know we were playing. Mom's lips pressed into a thin line and she said, "We never asked you to, Mia." Her words landed like a slap, not because they were cruel, but because they were true in the worst way. They'd never asked. I'd just done it, thinking it made me part of them. Dad's face shifted, a flicker of something, guilt, maybe, or just confusion. "I thought you wanted to help," he said, his voice gruff. Claire stepped forward, her voice soft but careful. "We all appreciate it, Mia, but if it's too much," she trailed off, like she didn't know how to finish. I nodded, not because I agreed, but because I was done explaining. "I do care," I said. "But I'm choosing us now, me, Lucas, Anna. That's what matters." No one said thank you. No one asked why I was pulling back now. They just stared, like I'd knocked over the table instead of stepping away from it. I turned to the living room, where Lucas and Anna were still at their card table, the cartoon flickering unwatched. I grabbed Anna's sweater from a chair and folded it over my arm, my hands moving on autopilot. Lucas met me in the hallway, a pizza crust in his hand, his eyes searching mine. "Are we leaving, Mom?" he asked, Quieter than usual, I glanced back at the kitchen, at the family I'd spent my life trying to hold together. The photos on the walls, the laughter that didn't include us, the table set for everyone but us. Yeah, I said, my voice softer than I meant it to be. Let's go home. We walked out into the Georgia night, the air sharp against my skin. The kids climbed into the car, their heads leaning together in the back seat, already half asleep. I cracked the window as I drove, letting the cold keep me awake. The house faded in the rear view, and with it, the version of me who thought I had to earn my place there. The drive back to our apartment was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels like it's holding its breath. Lucas and Anna dozed in the back seat, their faces soft under the streetlights, still smelling of pizza and the pecan pie they'd barely touched. Our little apartment in Atlanta's outskirts wasn't much, a two-bedroom with creaky floors and a fridge that hummed too loud, but it was ours. Stepping inside that night, it didn't feel lonely like it used to. It felt like a fresh start. Lucas kicked off his shoes, then went back to line them up by the door, a habit he'd picked up without me asking. Anna climbed onto the couch and curled into my lap, her face pressed into my sweater, sticky with frosting. "Did we do something wrong, Mommy?" she mumbled, her voice muffled against me as I smoothed her hair, counting her breaths like I did when she was a baby. "No, sweetheart," I said, my voice steady but soft. "We didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes people forget to make room for us, but we get to choose where we belong." She looked up at me, her eyes big and searching. "Do we still love them?" she asked, not angry, just curious, the way kids ask questions that cut straight to the truth. Did I thought about it, really thought. The family I'd grown up with, the ones I'd spent years trying to please, Mom with her perfect napkins, Dad with his bourbon, Charles with his charm that always got him a free pass. "Love doesn't go away," I said finally. "But sometimes we have to love from a distance to keep ourselves safe." Lucas had settled next to us, wrapped in a blanket, his eyes far away. He didn't ask for a hug, but he leaned against my arm, and that was enough. We sat there, the three of us, no TV, no noise, just the sound of our breathing. On the coffee table, I noticed a drawing Anna had made earlier that week, 3 stick figures under a wobbly sun, labeled in her messy scrawl, "Lucas, Anna, Mom." No one else. I didn't fix it. I just grabbed a magnet and pinned it to the fridge, right where we'd see it every morning. Outside, the wind rattled the last leaves across the parking lot. Inside, we were exactly where we needed to be. I didn't know it yet, but that night was the start of something new. Not just leaving, but choosing. Choosing us. A few days after Thanksgiving, my phone started buzzing. First, a missed call from Claire, then 2 from Mom, 1 from a number I didn't recognize but knew was Dad. He never saved his own contact. Voicemails piled up, short and clipped, no apologies. "Hey, Mia, just checking if you got home okay," Claire said, her voice tight. The kids seemed fine. "Call me?" Mom's was vaguer. "We're dealing with some house stuff, nothing major, just call when you can." I didn't listen to Dad's. I didn't need to be why Friday. Natalie sent a message on Instagram, not even a text. "Hey, heads up, Charles is in a bit of a bind. Might be good to talk as a family. Let me know when you're free." Not "how are you," not "we're sorry." Just "Charles is in trouble, fix it." I left my phone face down on the kitchen counter, the red notification light blinking like a warning. Lucas was asleep on the couch, a library book splayed across his chest. Anna was in the bath, humming her favorite song off-key. I leaned against the counter, watching the light pulse, and didn't press play. The next day, Claire showed up unannounced, holding a bag of donuts like we were still grabbing coffee in college. Her lipstick was smudged, her eyes tired. "Can I come in?" she asked. I stepped aside, and she hovered by the counter, fidgeting with a mug that didn't need washing. "It's Charles," she said, no preamble. "He did something dumb. Really dumb. And now Mom and Dad are not great." I waited, arms crossed. She glanced at me, cautious. "He borrowed against the house. Some real estate deal went south, and now there's a foreclosure notice. They need your help, Mia. You're good at this stuff, talking to banks, sorting things out." There it was. The same old script. Mia, the fixer. The one who stayed up late balancing their checkbooks when Dad had surgery, who paid Charles's phone bill when he forgot. I looked at Claire, her hopeful eyes, and felt a pang. Not anger, just exhaustion. "I'm glad you came," I said, my voice gentle but firm. "But I'm not the one they should call." Her shoulders lifted, then fell. "You're serious," she said, not a question. I nodded. She stared at the mug, then at the fridge, where Anna's drawing hung. "You've made this place a home," she said quietly, like she was seeing it for the first time. I didn't tell her the kids had done that, not me. She left without another word. The donuts untouched on the counterpoint. 6 days passed without a word. Then the alert started. First, an email from Lucas's school. His tuition payment, which my parents were listed as emergency contacts for, had bounced. Then Anna's daycare called. Same story. I still had alerts set up from years ago, when I managed Dad's mortgage during his recovery. A call from my old bank manager came next, her voice kind but clipped. "Just a heads up, Mia. Your dad added Charles to the account last month. There's been activity." Activity. That's what they call $25,000 drained in weeks. Charles had sunk it into a shady real estate deal. All promises and no paperwork, the kind of plan that only worked in his head. Now the bank was circling, and the foreclosure notice Claire mentioned was real. Mom texted that night, a long, scattered paragraph. "If you have any time, we could use help with the bank." You're so good with words, Mia. They listened to you, and no mention of Thanksgiving. No mention of the cornbread I'd carried like a peace offering.
Just we need you.
I stared at the screen, the words blurring. The next day, Claire sent a photo, no caption, just the front porch of Mom and Dad's house, paint peeling, a foreclosure notice taped to the door like a wound. That night, Lucas caught me rattling dishes in the kitchen, louder than I meant to. He wandered in, rubbing his eyes. "They're in trouble, aren't they?" he asked, his voice small but sharp. I hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, buddy, they are." He curled his toes against the cold tile. "Are we gonna help them?" I knelt beside him, one hand on his back, feeling the warmth of him, the trust in his eyes. "We're gonna do what's best for us," I said. "That's what I promised you and Anna." In the past, I'd have been at their house by now, laptop open, bank on speed dial, fixing what Charles broke. But I stayed right there, on the kitchen floor, holding my son. They'd built a world where Charles could do no wrong, where his mistakes were just bad luck, and I was the one who cleaned up the mess. Not anymore. I wasn't bringing glue to a table I wasn't invited to sit at. Claire called again one Sunday morning, the sun barely up, my hands still warm from folding laundry. "They might lose the house this week," she said, her voice flat, like she'd run out of hope. I paused, holding Lucas's rocket ship shirt. "What do you want me to do, Claire?" I asked. She hesitated. "Just come by.
Talk to them.
They'll listen to you." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so familiar. Me, the calm voice, the logical one, the fixer they only noticed when they needed saving. "I'll think about it," I said, and hung up. That evening, Claire showed up again, no call, no donuts this time, just a folder stuffed with bank statements and a scribbled note from Mom that looked like a to-do list. "I'm just the messenger," she said quickly, like I might snap. "I know it's not fair, Mia. They've leaned on you too much." I nodded, not angry, just done. "I'm not the answer anymore," I said, my voice steady. She searched my face, looking for the old Mia, the one who'd drop everything to fix their mess. "So you're just out?" she asked, her tone sharp but fragile. "I'm not out," I said. "I just stopped showing up where I'm not wanted." She didn't argue, just left the folder on the counter just in case and walked out. I didn't follow her. The next time the doorbell rang, it was Dad. He stood on my porch, holding his old baseball cap, looking smaller than I remembered, his face lined with a tiredness sleep couldn't fix. "Mia," he said, quiet, like my name was a question. I stepped aside, letting him in. He paced the living room, glancing at the photos on the wall. Lucas at his science fair, Anna in her astronaut costume. "You've done good here," he said, almost to himself. I waited.
He sighed.
"Your brother, he wasn't ready. We didn't see it." I let the silence stretch, let him feel it. "Your mom wanted to come," he said, but she's embarrassed. I didn't respond. He kept going. We didn't mean to push you out, Mia. It just got complicated. Your choices, leaving, pulling back, it made things harder. My choices. The divorce, the boundaries, the refusal to keep paying for their mistakes. I looked at him, really looked, and saw the man who taught me to change a tire, to balance a checkbook, but never how to be enough just by being me. You built a family where I only fit if I was fixing something, I said, my voice low but clear. You want me back now because Charles's mess broke everything. Not because you miss me. He opened his mouth, closed it. The silence wasn't heavy this time, it was honest. He didn't argue, didn't say goodbye. He just nodded and left, the folder still on the counter. I turned off the porch light and let the quiet settle. Winter settled over Atlanta, soft and quiet, like the city was holding its breath. The holidays came and went with no invitations, no group texts, just a silence that felt less like loss and more like freedom. Lucas, Anna, and I didn't do much decorating, a string of lights around the window, a small tree the kids picked out at a lot down the street. Plastic ornaments, paper stars they made at school, a glittery mess that made us laugh. It was enough. One morning, just after the new year, I found a letter in the mailbox, no return address, Mom's tight cursive spilling across 4 pages. It wasn't quite an apology, more a ramble of memories and regrets, with one line that stuck. We didn't mean to hurt you, Mia. We just didn't know where you fit. I folded it, tucked it into a drawer with the spare batteries, and didn't read it again. It wasn't mine to carry. Lucas caught me staring at the old photos on our hallway wall one day. School plays, birthdays, me and Charles and Claire when we thought family meant forever. Can we change it? He asked, pointing. Make it just us? So we did. We took down every frame, dusted the walls, and started over. New pictures. Lucas with his science trophy, Anna in her Halloween astronaut suit, the 3 of us tangled on the couch, laughing at a joke only we knew. I printed that one big, hung it dead center. No captions, no extra names, just us. A few days later, Claire texted, house sold. Mom and Dad are with Charles for now. It's messy, but maybe it's better. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. That night, I made tea and sat by the window, the porch light still off. The street was quiet, the world still. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for the next crisis, the next knock. I wasn't explaining myself. I was just here with Lucas and Anna, where I belonged, to everyone who's walked this road with me. Thank you. You've seen the hurt, the fight, the moment we chose ourselves. If this story hit home, if you've ever had to redraw your own lines, hit that subscribe button and join us. Every family has a story, but you get to decide who sits at your table. Keep building your own home, your own light. I'll meet you there.